That's good. That's what it should look like. All right. So just kind of continuing to review a little bit, right? So we started off our quadratic family looking at vertex form. There are all of these things that we can do easily from vertex form. It's a very helpful and an informative way for us to look at quadratic functions. Specifically, finding our a, our h, and our k, pulling that from the actual function itself. Then converting from vertex form to standard form, which is this ax squared plus bx plus c format, we also found that there are some things that we can do in this format as well. We get from vertex form to standard form by simplifying the input side of the function. Now, and we talked about the easiest thing, of course, is the y-intercept, right? Because all y-intercepts have an input of 0. So if we drop a 0 in here and a 0 in here, the only value we're going to be left with is the c value, which becomes our y-intercept. And intercepts are always important things. Just like when we were doing geometry, you know, being able to create 90-degree angles is always very important. Being able to find the midpoint is always very important. Well, intercepts in algebra, that's a very important part of, you know, taking the heads and tails side of a function, tying them together. Okay. And then again, I said we were going to have some more information that we're going to be talking about later this week here. And then, of course, we've got a bunch of information you can see over here that we're not going to quite get to yet today. But we are going to talk about how do we go from standard form to intercept form, because this is also going to be a very helpful way for us to look at our quadratics. Now, you'll notice that there seems to be some multiplication going on over here in intercept form, and that's exactly what it is, right? So what we got to do is we've got to take this polynomial and we've got to turn it into a multiplication problem. What's it called when we take something and we break it into a multiplication problem? What's the algebra word for that? Taking something and breaking it into a multiplication problem. Yeah, factoring. Good job, Brody, right? So like when we prime factor a number, right? We turn it into its multiplication problem of only prime numbers, right? And so in order to go from our standard form to our general form, what we are going to do is we are going to factor the input side of our function. We are going to factor the input side of our function. Now, last year, we did a little factoring review because we had to do some factoring questions, and so not really sure where everybody is at with their factoring skills. And so you are going to have some factoring questions that I'm going to be monitoring today here in class for you to do, and then you're going to apply that factoring to writing functions in intercept form. Now, a couple things I want to point out, okay? When I say factor the input side, this is what you're factoring. You're trying to turn it into a multiplication problem. There might be something that you have to pull out front first before you can create this factoring problem of two binomials. Okay? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. There will be in most cases that we practice. All right? And so when you factor, you're dealing solely with this side. But watch this carefully, Nick. Pay attention to what I'm saying. Okay? When I ask you to write your answers in intercept form, you actually are writing the entire function, right? Remember, a function is an equation. So when I say rewrite the function in intercept form, you're going to need to have an equal sign, and you're going to have an output side and an input side. So keep that in mind. When you're factoring, you're just going to be writing the factors. But when you're rewriting it in intercept form, you're rewriting the entire function. Does that make sense? You understand the difference between those? So make sure that when you're doing the homework, converting to intercept form, you're using your factoring skills, but your answers should look like a function with two sides and an equal sign. Good? Everybody got that? Okay, really important that you do that. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard and you're going to get very frustrated because there's going to be a lot of red on your formative, okay? All right, so that's it for writing things on our paper for today, because what we really need to do is get good at factoring so we can get good at converting to intercept form so that we can use our intercept form, which is what we're going to talk about next class. But for this class, our focus is on making sure you can factor and making sure you can use that factoring to rewrite from standard form to intercept form. That's the goal for today, okay? All right.